Leon Byner, I promised you. Here he is.
How are you?
I'm well, sir.
Good.
I asked Glenn Marie North. Did you ever meet Glenn Marie North?
No.
She is, as Les said back in the day, she would have been what we would call today an influencer.
Okay.
A mover and shaker. Made things happen.
I've got a mover and shaker at home. It's a Vitamix, and it does very well.
Yeah.
Isn't it funny how terminologies change over time? It's quite amazing.
Are you into health food?
Well, put it this way, I try to eat healthily.
Yeah.
A lot of health food is labelled as such.
Yeah.
But really, when you look at its sugar content, because sugar's the big problem, you see. A lot of health foods got a lot of sugar in it.
Yeah.
Some of it hasn't. But you know what? You can't go past the fruit and veg.
Oh, God.
You
Yeah, I
can't
like
go
the fruit.
past-
I don't like the veg.
No.
No.
Well, I see cauliflower au gratin, for example. I love it.
Cauliflower.
Broccoli au gratin with white sauce.
Okay.
It's beautiful. I love broccoli. I love carrots.
Nobody likes broccoli.
I love broccoli.
Nobody. You like it too, Tony. Broccoli.
It's got a lot of good things
You're
in
going to
it.
tell me you like cabbage next.
It's funny, the coloured vegetables, I always got taught this. The coloured vegetables are the ones that have the most nutrients that are good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the more colourful your meal, the better it is for you.
If you go out to a restaurant, where would you go? What type of restaurant would you go
I
to?
eat a fair bit of Asian because
Yeah, me too.
I find they don't overcook things.
I think Asian food is really good. I
Asian
like
food
that.
is good. And
Tony, what do you do? What do you
I
like?
went to a lovely Italian on
Italian.
Wednesday at Buonasera.
Oh, Buonasera, it's just down the road.
Really nice food.
yeah, Asian's good.
Yeah. I asked Glenn Marie North who was the greatest influence in her life. Now, your years in broadcasting span what? I mean, and you're not out of it yet.
No.
So, what? That's all, 50?
1966 I started.
I started in 67, so you're a year ahead of me.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I started in 62, if you
I
count
started
being an
very
office
young.
boy.
Yeah, I started exceptionally young. There were a lot of different people. I used to love oratory. When I was growing up, I admired people who spoke well.
Oh.
And I used to seek out. There was a guy you would remember, a former Senator Don Jessup.
Yes, indeed. I remember Don Jessup very well.
There were a lot of public speakers
Yeah.
that I found captivating, and I thought, please God, one day I'll be able to communicate like that.
Yes.
But given that we have two ears and one mouth, I did a fair bit of listening and still do.
Yeah.
And boy, do you keep learning. You never stop learning.
Yes, but it is a gift. What you have is a gift. I mean, not everybody can do with the eloquence you do it.
No.
So you've got to accept the fact that fate has smiled on you, or
Yes,
genetics.
I thank the Lord often that I have what I've got, and how often I say there, but for the grace of God go I. Goodness, I've lost count.
Yeah,
Absolutely lost count.
yeah. I know what you mean. Any thoughts about the entertainment business at the moment?
It's at a very low ebb, in
You
my
saw,
view.
you saw all those television shows that they cancelled the other day. 34 of them.
Yeah, well, there'll be more. There's another 20 to go.
Well, frankly, I think that's probably a sensible clean-out. But why now? Why would they choose? And this is going across all the different channels.
It's cost.
Surely it's results as well. If people aren't tuning in,
Yeah, well, see, the thing is this. To produce anything now, whether it's in manufacturing or in entertainment, there is a increasing cost involved because you need people in the chain.
Yeah.
Radio's a wonderful thing in that it's a very intimate way of communicating because it's only you, the microphone, and the listener at the other end. You're very lucky in that regard. Whereas in other forms, you've got all these other people that probably you need to have them. You've got floor managers and all this sort of stuff. So in television and many of the other arts of entertainment, to get from A to B, you go through a very complex chain, which comes with a cost.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of it. I still have tremendous faith in radio because it is immediate and it is the most intimate way you can achieve to communicate between one person and another. Really is.
Yeah, yeah. And it's also theatre of the mind because you don't have to worry about the pictures.
No.
You paint pictures in people's very...
Absolutely.
And there is nothing that you can do on a screen that a person can't do in his or her brain much more vividly, much more wonderfully.
It's funny you talk about screens. When I did a lot of Hollywood interviews, I'm going to go back to do more soon.
Yeah.
Mel Brooks was one of the people that I used to have a lot to do with.
Yeah.
And he was very prophetic when he said to me, and this was probably 12, 13 years ago now, that we must not lose the ability to eyeball each other, that we're becoming addicted to screens, and the gift of humanity is that you can sit down and eyeball somebody, and it's not just eye to eye, it's all the body language and other stuff that comes with it that's innate communication.
Yeah.
A screen doesn't give you any of that.
No.
You don't get most of that through a screen. And I thought, how prophetic is that bloke? And of course
He was a brilliant, brilliant man.
Yeah, and of course his partner is Anne Bancroft. You couldn't get two more different people.
Yes.
But they get on like a house on fire.
Yes, yes.
They really do.
I think Anne has died.
Yeah.
Is he still going? I don't know.
He does a little bit.
Yeah,
He does. He's even done a bit of stand-up charity. And
He's a master of comedy.
oh, yeah. Remember that movie High Anxiety?
High Anxiety. I remember the producers.
Yes.
That was so funny.
Yes, To Be or Not to Be. God, that was a great song.
You've got to have a mind for the absurd.
Yes.
To really be funny. If you're going back to Hollywood, who's on the list? Who are you going to talk to?
Oh, Robert Downey Jr. I've got about 15 people.
Yeah.
And
You've got access to them too, which is very valuable.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of finding the time to do it. Because now, you see, going to America by plane and all the passports and the paraphernalias and stuff, there's a lot involved.
Yep.
So you've got to have a sort of a threshold of practicability where you've got enough there to justify it.
Yeah.
Because you've got a lot of messing around.
So you'd get over there, then you'd be running from morning till night to fit everything in.
Yes. And in fact, what I normally do is I get a nice place to stay and the guests will often come to me and then you've got to give them refreshments and so on. So it's
Then you come back and you market it to a television network or a particular show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think you're very enterprising to do that because you're sticking your neck out.
Oh, yeah. And you can do a lot online now too, you see.
Oh, no, but I like the eyeball-to-eyeball thing. I think doing it in person would be much better.
Online, I mean, once you've got the product. But there's nothing like sitting down with somebody, and I don't do it with clipboards. I just sit there and talk to them. And I love that. The number of people... I remember I became very friendly with Jackie Collins, and she opened a lot of doors for me.
Yeah.
And one of the first things she said to me was, "Where are your notes?" I said, "I don't need them.
No.
They're all in here."
You need curiosity.
Yeah.
Curiosity. I'll tell you a little story. I was fortunate enough to be invited onto the midday show with Ray
Martin,
yeah. And it was a kind of a highlight because here I was in little old Adelaide and I got the invitation to come up and be a guest on his show, the midday show, which is top rating, you know.
Yeah.
And I was absolutely amazed that there are two interviews. There is the pre-interview, which I'd never heard of.
Oh, yes.
After years and years in the business. And it was a lady by the name of Lisa Forrest.
Yes.
Who was a athlete, swimmer,
Yes.
I think,
Yes.
Olympian. And she sat down and she asked me all these questions, and I answered the questions. And then she said to me, "Now, when you go in, and Ray will introduce you and blah, blah, just remember he has got all of these questions and all of your answers. So you're not to change your answers. And I thought, you're kidding me. Ray Martin actually has to have not only the questions written for him, but he has to have the answers provided before the interview.
So he can react.
Well, I don't get that. Where's the spontaneity? You see, if you ask a question and there's the answer, doesn't that lead to a different question?
Let me tell you, the great communicators of the media, TV, radio, are very spontaneous.
Yes.
And they have the ability. You see, one of the problems is that sometimes a pure journalist, and I have a lot of respect for the journalistic profession.
Yes, it's not all that pure, by the way, I must tell you.
Well, maybe not. But you have to allow for the unknown.
Well, you welcome the unknown.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah.
Because that's the whole point of inquiry.
Yeah, when I was talking to Glenn Marie, I had no idea that the former President of the United States had propositioned her.
No.
And that wouldn't have come out except for the fact that it was unexpected.
Yes, indeed.
And it's interesting.
Indeed. Yeah. But no, we live in an interesting world, and I grew up with some wonderful people as influencers, and so I always learnt that because I had two of one thing and one of the other, that's ears and a mouth, I did a bit more listening than talking. And it's amazing what you learn.
True. Now, we have in Australia, apparently, an e-commissioner. We do, an e-commissioner.
Yeah.
And with Deakin University, they've done a survey to look at the evils of social media. Now, what do you think of social media? By that, I take it it means Facebook and...
yeah. Well, you see, what social media is the method by which everybody can become a publisher. That's really what it is. So once upon a time, you either had to pick up the phone or go and meet somebody, and that was your publishing.
Yeah.
But now, there are other means by which one can communicate.
With millions.
Oh, yeah. I still, you see, social media, to an extent, has become an end in itself. I don't see it that way. It's the way it is. I see it purely as a tool, a middleman tool. I always like the sit down and eyeball, if you can. I think the online thing has gotten a little out of control because now you've got access to a world that's got all sorts of stuff in it. And some of that
good
stuff,
and bad.
Yeah, absolutely. But you see, your brain there has to be the filter.
But isn't it another thing we were talking about this morning was risk-taking. That people have taken all the risk out of playing, so kids don't learn the lessons that you and I would have learned.
Well, don't climb a tree, you might fall off.
All of that, yeah. Well,
don't play in the dirt, you might get sick.
But you learned that when you did fall out of the tree.
Yes.
I won't go up that high again.
Yeah, well, that's why they invented the term, and this goes back some time, helicopter parenting, where, you love your kids and you want to keep an eye on them. But, the ability to play is really an important part of growing up.
And learning.
Oh, yeah. I've got a lovely nephew, and he's 13 now. God, he's smart. And he restricts himself as to how much time he'll spend online. Because even he says, and his name's Jake, he says, Uncle Leon, this can become addictive and it's not good. And I said, tell me, how did you reach that conclusion? And he said, I didn't need Mum to do it. It's just that a lot of my friends I don't get to see a lot of because they're too busy sitting in front of a screen.
Yeah.
And he said, I won't do that. And I thought, how smart, how lovely. And of course, he comes over home a lot, loves the dogs. I've got 2 Papillon. And he gets on well with them. He loves to walk them. He loves to play and do things, watch a few videos. But I thought to myself, what a really healthy way of...
Well, you'd have been a great dad.
Yeah. A lot of people tell me that. But I've got...
But it's nice when you can send them home.
Yes, yeah. No, I'm very fortunate. And, Jackie comes over and stays the night, plays with the dogs and we'll go out and have a burger together occasionally and all those sort of things. So, it's good to do ordinary things sometimes.
Well, this E-Commissioner and Deakin University thing came up with the fact that we are producing a toxic message for young men. Teenagers, not so much girls, but I don't know how you can differentiate that. This stuff is toxic for both sexes, I would have thought. But apparently we are poisoning the attitude of young men. We're making them misogynist.
How?
I don't know. I don't go to a lot of social media, so I don't know really what the E-Commissioner is worried about and talking about.
Let me tell you something. It is the job of parents to bring up their children, not technology.
No,
it's not technology's job.
But they give you a screen. The school tells you you got to buy the kid a $4,000 computer. Or
but my fear is that there are a lot of wonderful parents out there who keep an eye on things. For example, in the business of social media, they make sure that the boy or girl child is not locked or shut off by the door in the privacy of their own room doing stuff that the parents don't know anything about.
Yeah.
So a lot of the parents I talk to, their policy is, let's have the social media where it can be social. Yeah. So it's in a place of the home where, there's traffic, people walking past. Oh, what's that you're doing? Oh, that's interesting, yeah. Whereas, and I reckon that's a really good attitude of doing things. And in fact, a very close friend of mine is a mum of a young boy and girl. She does that, and she swears by it, reckons it's the way to go. Because you can keep an eye on things without actually appearing to be standing over them, which gets a little bit of resentment.
Or doing the helicopter thing.
Sure,
no, I understand. But you've got to be involved in the education of your parents, your children, because the kids are going to educate you as a parent. Like, you're supposed to be there educating them.
It's two-way. You learn lots from kids.
We all do every day. We learn stuff.
For example, the old debriefing from what happened at school today, I reckon is as important now as it ever was.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what's going to come back through school.
No.
And there's some really interesting stuff that you hear about from time to time.
Well, the worst thing is, of course, if you're not aware of the indoctrination of your kids rather than the education of your kids.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of that. And there are some teachers who, I think teaching is a noble profession and most of them are absolute troopers. But
most.
You will get some
zealots
who have an agenda.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And that is when you kind of have to be a little careful.
But what can you do about it, even if you discover that there is stuff going on in the classroom that you do not approve of?
Well, the thing is this. There are two ways to go. You can either modify it by your own influences at home, or you can address it with the school, depending on how acute it is and what sort of effect it's having on children. Teachers these days, look, I have a lot of respect for that profession because it's a bit like being a lion tamer now. The business of school discipline, and I know this and you would know this too, having an ordered classroom is a real challenge.
Isn't that an oxymoron, a disciplined classroom?
Oh, yeah, but there are some teachers who compel to just be quiet while they talk. There's a few of them around.
They're good at teaching.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
They're brilliant.
Gifted.
Yep. And we can all remember, I bet, at least one or two people from school in the teaching area that were a tremendous influence.
Yes.
There
inspirational.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I can remember two. Yeah. And they were fantastic. They were brilliant. And they, because of the way they approach things, they commanded attention without asking for it. They'd walk into the classroom, and that's a little bit hard now because we've mainstreamed. See, we used to have special schools, And then somebody came up with the idea that you put everybody together and mainstream them, and by having a special school, you're being elitist and all this sort of stuff, which turned out to be somewhat erroneous.
It didn't help anybody.
No, it didn't.
No.
Because, education used to be, Form 5, A, B, C, D, and you would stream students. We don't do that much now. We treat everybody the same. And I don't know that we can do that because every child is special.
Yes. And different.
Yeah. And so I admire people who go into the teaching profession because, by hell, to be able to get attention and impart knowledge and achieve that to where they can pass an exam is a pretty awesome achievement.
You know the old 80-20 law that, you go to school and you spend 80% of your time in the classroom and 20% in the playground. But unfortunately what happens is when it comes to the knowledge acquiring, you get 80% of your knowledge from the playground and 20% of your knowledge from the classroom. But with those sort of teachers that you talked about, they are the stars of the profession.
Absolutely.
Yes. Not everybody in the movies is a star and not meant to be. But with those people who stand out and leap out at you,
I remember
precious people.
One teacher, I remember his name, Mr. Field, he used to say to me, because I asked him once, how do you feel about your job with students like me? And he said, Leon, it's like watering a lawn. You're happy if about a quarter sinks in. And I thought, gee, how smart. He was a really good teacher.
You should put out a book on famous one-liners from Leon's show.
Yeah.
When are you coming back on radio?
Oh, when I'm invited?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
I get asked that question so many times. It is not funny.
Oh, well, it's plain crazy with your experience.
I would do it. I'd do it in a flash, but of course, one has to be invited.
Well, I don't know. I mean, it's like knocking on a door. Sometimes you have to kick it in.
Oh, you can let people know you're available.
Yeah.
And I've certainly done that. But if you do much more than that, you risk becoming...
Oh, I know.
You risk becoming a kind of, not him again. So
yes,
I tend to give it a wide berth.
Yeah, no, I understand that. But I just think it's personally a great waste and a crying shame that Leon Byner is not on air every day. Well, if you don't want to be on air every day, you could be on air on special programs, special projects.
Sure, well, thanks for saying that. But I still keep well in contact with all of the people that
We're special, that's true. Yeah. We're special.
And I haven't lost contact with any of the experts I dealt with before. So if I was called upon to do something, I'd have all that info and expertise available.
I would just worry that, I think perhaps in a sense you and I have seen the very best days of radio, largely because of the people who ran it. I mean, all of those people was, Stan Clark and Paul Thompson and, there's so many, you can't start naming people because you'll forget some of the most important ones. But these were the people who spotted talent, encouraged talent, inspired people, believed in them, went out on a limb for them, all of that stuff. And those sort of people in management or ownership, I don't think they exist anymore.
Largely that's probably right.
It's the accountant who runs the thing, and he's got a completely different perspective.
Yeah, well, you see, everything is cyclical.
They're waving the clock at me.
Yeah, everything is cyclical.
Oh, yes, we'll ring Anthony, yes. Yeah, we better do that. We try and find a home for a puppy dog or a pussycat or a bird or a lizard or something that the Animal Welfare League have a need for, finding a home.
Yep.
We try to do that before 12 o'clock. But anyway, I'm very grateful that you came in again. No. Will you come back?
Of course I will.
God bless you.
You just tell me when. All right?
Every time. Any time and every time.
All right, mate. All the best.
And you. Leon Byner, ladies and gentlemen.